Cindy Lauper, I'll be your river. Before that, Craig David and the Counting Crows joining us on the line from Hong Kong because it's 10 o'clock in the morning here. Our marketing maestro, Stephen Barnes. How are you doing, Captain?
Hello, young man. How are you?
Very good. And you?
No complaints from me, although I'm in a quieter location this week compared to previous weeks. So hopefully I'll get a much better command of my dulcet tones rather than the banging in the background being the cacophony of Hong Kong and all the good stuff that has to offer the world.
Can you go back and say the same thing that you said at the beginning? Hello, young man. I like that.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to do it, Jason.
Absolutely. One amongst few. So, how are things going, Captain?
It's been a busy week. Lots going on. Same old, right? We've got quite a number of projects that are, after several months and in one case a year and a half, are now just starting to come to fruition. So we continue to add to the overall content proposition and their expertise that we've got in parlaying, various streams of capability.
Okay.
The projects carry on, all good.
Excellent. Now I know we're going to be chatting a little bit about one of your intellectual heroes today, the Vice Chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, none other than Charlie Munger.
The venerable Mr. Charles T. Munger, in actual fact. Yes.
Now before we get started on that, I was chatting to our business guru Warren Hill on Monday. I'd seen something interesting on Facebook, and I wanted to get your take on it, given that you're big on social marketing and your beliefs in the connection economy, etc., and how we are social beings. The thing that I found quite disturbing, if you do use Facebook to advertise, is Mark Zuckerberg saying that he's going to change Facebook again to show you more posts from your friends and less from publishers and businesses. Do you think that this is something that's going to negatively affect advertising on Facebook?
I don't know it's going to negatively affect advertising because Facebook have mapped the social graph. So any advertiser who wants to pop a message in front of a particular profiled individual will be able to do so, notwithstanding the fact that Facebook have decided to change the way that their algorithm works on a sort of organic free flow basis to kind of allow the news feed of individuals to kind of reflect what those individuals might hope to see. As you know, in previous months and years, you've had a lot of sort of news articles and stuff that you think, how did that get to me? It's not a sponsored article. It's that sort of extra organic piece that if you pay money with Facebook to drive targeted messaging into profiled individuals, not only do Facebook give you the opportunity to sort of drop your missives into targeted profile types, they actually give you a wider sort of hit and miss organic reach, whereas your organic reach might be 2 or 3% of your followers without paying to play. When you pay to play, you get all the targeted efforts put into your proposition, but you also get a wider sort of hit and miss type. Drop it in front of people on an off type basis. Perhaps it might be interesting. Sort of that sort of expanded organic reach that they give you.
Okay.
So from an advertiser's perspective, it doesn't really make that much difference. From a consumer's perspective, I think what Facebook have done is right. We have to recognize that Facebook represents a leading source of information that people consume these days, and Facebook have a responsibility, as we've seen with the Russia-Trump shenanigans, that there is plenty of potential for that to be misused and abused. So Facebook know that their relevance ultimately is driven by the value that they deliver to their consumer base, and if that consumer base begins to get fed up with it for any reason or another, they'll migrate off. So all self-serving on Facebook's part, notwithstanding their motivations for it, the publicly stated motivations for it. But I think it's part and parcel of the evolution of these social platforms. They have to be relevant and meaningful for the users. And if for one reason or other that meaning or usefulness is derogated, then people will migrate away. And Facebook see total time on app, on site, that as being their key to success. And when they can understand that people are going to spend less time on there, as I have been doing recent months, notwithstanding the fact that we're decent advertisers on it. Personally, I don't spend that much time on it because I just felt that the stuff that I was getting was just dross in the main. I'm happy to hear from friends, but the non-source stuff was pretty dross-full. Is that a word? Yeah, but that's what I felt.
A couple of the points in the article that I thought were relevant were it's changing its news feed to prioritize posts from friends and family, showing fewer posts from publishers and businesses. Zuckerberg explained that a focus for the company in 2018 is making sure the time people spend on Facebook is time well spent. So that goes exactly to what you've just said. And he said that Facebook users are complaining that public content is crowding out personal moments. So, and as Facebook make these updates, pages may see their reach, their video watch time, and referral traffic decrease. Now, obviously, Facebook is a social platform that people get to see news from their friends, but the monetized side of Facebook is all about the advertising. So I'm very sure they're not going to cut their noses off to spite their face. But if, as an advertiser, I'm getting less reach, and I'm paying the same amount of money, it becomes less valuable to me.
No, I think you're still going to get the same sort of reach because of the targeted aspects. They're still going to pop this stuff into, like in our instance, we simply don't have. There isn't enough money in the bank in Hong Kong to be able to pay Facebook to put our message in front of every single Facebook user. So that's against a particular profile. So you're always going to be able to address the audience that you do want to address. The main thing I think that Facebook needs to be worried about is prioritize moments from your family and friends. But when I look at my pool of family and friends, there's 5%, 10% of what my family and friends are posting is intrinsically interesting. I'm glad I learned that. The rest is just sort of flotsam and jetsam and sort of is neither here nor there. Certainly not enough reason for me to spend more time on Facebook because I know that stuff's coming at me. So I think Facebook have still got their work cut out in staying truly relevant, because the one thing that Facebook and everybody else faces in the connection economy is that it's all about attention. And if what you are propagating doesn't command the attention of the people that you want to command, they're not going to stick around and be ready to receive the advertisements that you're popping in front of them. So in my case, if 90% of the stuff that comes from my family is curiously interesting, but ultimately not that important, then I don't really need to see it. And it's not a compelling reason for me to be on Facebook. So the reason why I stick on Facebook is because it's such an important part of our social media outreach and content amplification strategy. But secondary, it's a place where family and friends, do hang out and can contact me. And for that reason, I will never cancel my Facebook account. But am I enamored with what it delivers to me at the moment? Not that much.
Okay.
Not that much.
Now,
but again, please carry on.
No, carry on. Go.
No. I realise I've probably answered the question. I've probably already said what I was about to say. So.
Now, if you have a look at the likes of Berkshire Hathaway and their vast companies that they own. Now, I know you appreciate them for their intellectual prowess. Would you say that they are part of the connection economy or the old industrial economy?
They are absolutely wired into the industrial economy. But the thing about Berkshire Hathaway is that they have such a huge commitment to management talent that sort of just run with it and are empowered to make decisions that are all based on value investing. And Buffett and Munger have got a formula that they use to determine the type of investments that they make, and that formula is actually a very simple formula. And that simple formula will drive decisions in the connection economy as it drove decisions in the industrial economy. And the thing about Berkshire Hathaway is that the management talent is so adept that they will not fall into the trap that the vast majority of other industrial type companies do because of the way that the management structures are. Okay. So I've got a huge amount of faith in the way that Berkshire Hathaway are, and Charlie Munger is 94, I think now, and Warren Buffett is 2 or 3 years younger than him. So they're no spring chickens. They're not going to be around for much longer, but they've expressed on many occasions in the past their supreme level of confidence that the management structure that they've imbued really from the very first, some 50, 60 years ago, is going to carry the day and allow them to transition out of an industrial economy organized business into ultimately, sometime down the road, what will be a fully fledged connection economy type business. It's not, the industrial economy is not going away overnight. It's going to take decades for the last vestiges of the industrial economy businesses to sort of trickle out and become irrelevant or have their niches converted into a connection economy type operation. It's going to take some time, so the trick is to have management that are at the helm as you transition from the industrial to the connection, and Berkshire Hathaway's management team are so supremely good at what they do. Because of the way that it's been configured, that nobody has any concerns that they're going to die a death with the industrial economy, and that can't be said for a lot of businesses, that's for sure.
Now, what was it about Charlie Munger that became applicable in your business, and how you approach a strategy for marketing?
Well, remember, I've done a lot of reading, a lot of research over the last 6 or 7 years to sort of culminate in the business model that we've got right now. And each of my 4 intellectual heroes, together with Clay Christensen, another gentleman from Harvard Business School who's impacted the way that I think, they've given me streams of sort of, intellectual endeavor to muse upon. And what Charlie Munger gave me, sort of encapsulated sort of into a single sentence, I guess, is that he taught me business morality. And but what I mean by business morality is that, like, he says things like, you want to deliver to the world what you would buy if you were on the other end.
Okay, so that's in terms of service and product.
Yeah, essentially, when you're thinking about, embarking on some sort of commercial endeavor that's driven by you selling something to someone, then, just think about what it is that you're doing. And if you are able to deliver what you would want to buy, then really you're 95% of the way there to success, right? Assuming that you've done the thinking and that you've put together something that's inherently attractive, given the conclusion that you've arrived at, that you do want to deliver to the world what you'd buy if you're on the other end. And another sort of a facet of that, I suppose, is in sort of preparing your thinking about constructing your business proposition is the golden rule, which is another, it's a universal theme, but Charlie Munger, certainly reflects on it in his various sort of writings and speeches, and that is, to treat other people in the same way you yourself would hope to be treated. There are certain commentators that have been, let's say, a little bit nitpicky about what that means, and they've moved it on and said, well, no, it's not the golden rule, really. It should be the platinum rule. And the platinum rule is not so much treat other people in the same way that you want to be treated, but you treat people in the way that they would want to be treated, which is a variation on the theme, but at the end of the day, it all amounts to the same thing, right? And that is doing something that is in favour of the other party rather than being self-serving at the point of delivery. There's another notion to that, and that's the double platinum rule. And and the double platinum rule is to treat other people in the way that they don't know that they would be delighted to be treated. And an example of that, for instance, is in the way that our business unfolds. The overwhelming majority of our business comes via the internet, and by the time people have arrived in to see us, they've consumed our internet proposition, and they've come across the double your money back guarantee that we give, because we only take on clients that we can get approved, and we put our money where our mouth is, and we invest in our clients when we take on a set of instructions. But sometimes I find myself in a meeting with a client and it's been through a word of mouth referral and they haven't actually been on our websites. So, they've come in to see us with a problem and we've been personally sort of, introduced, so they're comfortable with what we're all about. Social proof has worked in our favour because of the personal introduction. We've gone through the strategy session. I've looked at them and said, yes, actually, based on everything that you've told me and what I believe, is going to be the outcome's going to be, we can get this visa for you. By the way, not only can we get the visa for you, but we will give you double your money back if we don't get the visa for you. And, for half of the people that we have our initial sort of client engagement conversations with, that comes as a complete surprise to them. So, there you might have an instance, for example, of the platinum rule, the double platinum rule in play. But these are just broad ideas that are all predicated on the idea that really what you need to do when you're dealing with people and understanding how you should treat them, just invert things. Say, if you were on the receiving end of this, what would you hope that encounter to be like? And if you follow that rule, you can't go wrong because you're dealing with people on the basis of respect and trust, and you don't have any agendas. They are just delighted by the way that you've sort of come into their life and helping them achieve what they're or what they've come to see you to achieve.
Now,
So
I've experienced that in 3 different forms recently. I work with a small local hotel, and I've had 2 interactions with other hotels in the area recently. Now, the hotel that I work with is operated by a woman that runs the hotel in a way that she's experienced good hotels traveling around the world. So it's a personal investment in making sure that the experience that a guest receives is as she would expect it if she was traveling anywhere in the world. So for her, it's a very personal delivery based on her own expectation as a guest, which I think is probably the best way to be a hotelier of all of them. And then I had run-ins with 2 other hoteliers who are completely commercially orientated, and I had a bit of a rant about one of them last week, in that that they have no regard of local custom or just doing things in a hospitable way. So, that Charlie Munger principle is evident in the way one person runs their business, and completely evident that it's not there in the other 2. And definitely I know which one is more favorable.
And isn't that so interesting, right? Because in the final analysis, it boils down to decisions that you make, right? You can either do it the crap way or you can do it, the good way. So why do it the crap way? That's just making life difficult for yourself.
Sure.
Do it the good way, and ultimately this is sort of what I couch as Charlie Munger teaching me business morality, because it falls within, a set of moral principles, I believe, that are just going to serve your interests magnifold times. If you just adopt what's really better for the other person, and as I say, deliver to the world what you'd buy if kind of you were on the other end. So those are two elements of Charlie Munger's sort of influence on me. Third one is something that I learned a long time ago, but it was just reinforced really when Charlie Munger, when I came across materials that Charlie Munger's intimated that this is what the game's all about, and that is to do one thing and do it better than everybody else. If you do one thing and do it better than everybody else, you're guaranteed to be successful. So stick to your knitting. Now, I've had a 25-year odyssey of not doing one thing well. I did lots and lots and lots of things, did them reasonably well, but unfortunately never made any money out of them, and it was almost the death of me financially. So sticking to your knitting is what it's all about, I believe, and Charlie Munger has laid that out quite clearly, and it served my interests tremendously.
Now, what would you say? Would you say your knitting is now?
My what thing is now?
What is your knitting now? I know the financial aspect is visas, but the real big picture is marketing.
It's intelligent content marketing. That's right. Because intelligent content marketing is a kind of a marketing operating system. It's a series of ideas. It's a collection of applied technologies that are cheap and available and within everybody's grasp, and a way of viewing what's going on as we transition from the industrial to the connection. And all of that is just sort of, virgin territory for the application of new thinking and new ways of doing things, disaggregating value, reaggregating value. So, my knitting right now, given that I've been doing immigration for 25 years, and frankly, I can do it in my sleep. My knitting now is, if you will, is really just to keep on top of this intelligent content marketing idea and share the ideas. Seth Godin says that ideas that spread win, and I think intelligent content marketing in our hands has proven to be a winning idea. So the intention is to give all that IP away completely for free, so that others can share and benefit from it, and we will win because it's our idea.
Now, I had a look online and I found some of Charlie Munger's quotes. Some of them are actually brilliant. Invest in a business that any fool can run. I really like that.
Yeah, exactly. And most unfortunately, most businesses are just overly complicated, and they're made overly complicated because of the needs of management to justify their existence in the first place.
Now, going back to what you said a little earlier, stick to your knitting. Another good one is do what you like and are good at. And he follows that up. You'll do better if you have a passion for something in which you have an aptitude. If Warren Buffett had gone into ballet, nobody would have heard of him.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's completely true. Yeah, which I think drives partially the decision to stick into your knitting, because it's easy to stick to your knitting if you're really good at something, and we're all good at one thing, right? That's the reality. And the trick in business is, if you're oriented towards business, is to identify what that one thing is, and then construct your proposition around you being able to deliver on that one thing, and making sure that you deliver it in a way that the customer finds it seamless to receive it from you.
He seems to say the same thing in couching it in a few different ways. It's crazy for an expert to diversify. Again, sticking to your knitting. Yeah?
Well, welcome to my world, right? What's Hong Kong's immigration expert doing, investing in companies that are designed to solve dysfunctional uterine bleeding from women who suffer from it between the age of 39 to 54, right? I spent 4 or 5 years and a significant amount of money investing into that space. And similarly, I spent $1.5 million Australian dollars of mine and other people's money on a software solution to the problem of email management in the workplace. Well, what's any of that got to do with Hong Kong immigration? So, I've had my moments in the non-immigration sun, and it's as a result of focusing on immigration the last 6 or 7 years that we've been able to acquire the expertise in this thing called intelligent content marketing. And also, Charlie Munger's talks about knowing the edge of your own competency. So as long as you know the edge of your own competency, you operate within the remit of your own competency, you're not going to get into any trouble. If you go outside of your remit of your own competency, as I did on 3 separate occasions previously, you're going to end up with your proverbial ass in a sling, and I learned that much to my cost. Sitting to my knitting is what it's really all about now. But I'm knitting 2 jumpers. I'm knitting the Hong Kong immigration jumper, and I'm knitting the sweater of intelligent content marketing.
There were a couple which when I read them, I thought about you in particular, actually. The one about books. The greatest minds earn books, not classrooms. Now, I know you did a lot of reading before you set on the path that you're on now, and obviously having these intellectual heroes, you've taken it from books, not from a classroom.
Well, right, and one of Charlie Munger's philosophies also is lifelong learning, and he talks about Warren Buffett being, even now in his late 80s, just a learning machine, and that's all he does is read for hour after hour after hour. He calls lifelong learning a moral duty, and as I've gotten older, I've come to understand the wisdom in that. Lifelong learning. If you're constantly learning, you're constantly improving, you've always got an edge on the people that are not invested in lifelong learning. So why wouldn't you do it? You're going to engage your mind intellectually in various things, and it can just be, movies and not get anything out of that. I prefer not to watch movies. Not that I've got anything against movies. I'd much rather watch a TED talk or, something that's intrinsically interesting for me, so that I can pick something up and learn from that. I think when you are exposed to a book or a short video or a long video or a documentary or whatever it is, there's always at least one thing that you can take away from that exposure. And if you just focus on the one thing and then add that to your repertoire of skills and then draw down on that whenever you need to in the future, well, if you spend as much time as I do, watching other stuff and being exposed to other stuff and picking up, one tip or one trick or one particular nugget that's going to help you achieve objectives going forward, why not add them to your repertoire and let that build up over time? And Buffett and Munger talk about compounding interest. That's integral part of the value investing proposition. Well, the same sort of approach can be said to lifelong learning. If you pick one new nugget up every single day from the various research and watchings that you're doing, after 365 days, you've now got 365 new things in your favor. After 10 years, that's 3,650 things that you've got in your favor. So pretty soon, it doesn't take you very long to get a broad skill set that is going to serve your interest tremendously well, just by focusing on lifelong learning and just determining that you're going to pick up and retain one simple thing from every sort of learning experience that you have. That's been my philosophy in terms of lifelong learning, and it served me really well.
Now I've just got a question on WhatsApp from somebody to say competency, absolutely, but what do you believe is important about intellectual capacity?
Well, it's knowing your market, right? It's about knowing your market. It's about having an intuitive sense of what value you can deliver into that marketplace. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to put together a proposition that's going to resonate. You just need to understand what the other person's all about. And then, again, intellectual capacity, does that mean that you don't have it from the get-go, or you've never acquired it, but you've got the capability? I think everybody's got the ability to improve their intellectual capabilities just by taking an interest in stuff that's going to benefit them, apply the ideas that I've been talking about with you these last few weeks, and deliver something new, interesting and remarkable to the party that they want to have a commercial relationship with. Don't think you need to be Einstein to come up with that kind of stuff. I'm not that bright when all is said and done. So I always say somewhat, quite seriously, if I can do it, seriously, anybody can do it. So I don't think brain power is massively important. I think if you're intrigued enough to turn your attention to the kind of stuff that I'm talking about right now, and you've got the entrepreneurial sort of nous to want to commercialize the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. It doesn't matter how smart you are, just the mere fact that you're intrigued enough to want to be able to take advantage of this stuff, that gives you the brain power you need to go about delivering on it, in my view.
One of the other quotes that I also enjoyed was, overestimating your intelligence could be a major pitfall. He says, if you think your IQ is 160 but it's 150, you're a disaster. It's much better to have a 130 IQ and say it's 120. I think he should be phoning somebody in charge of the White House, actually. That's just...
Well, I mean, it's Charlie Munger. I couldn't agree more. But what? The other thing that Charlie Munger also says as part of that, which has taught me everything really, and that is, it's what you don't know that always gets you in the end.
Yeah, you never know what's coming up the elevator.
It's what you don't know that always gets you. And invariably, you think that you've got a handle on something, and then for one reason or another, there was one oversight, or there was one dynamic in the market, or there was one conversation that you're not privy to, or there was one piece of news that slipped over your head, or you were just, subject to the typical foibles of human misjudgment, and not having addressed your mind to, the kind of potentials that are out there to come and sort of unravel you. That, in a sense, state of ignorance, by not turning your attention to those things and learning about the stuff that could be your undoing, is ultimately, as Charlie Munger says, it's what you don't know that always gets you in the end.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen. As always, brilliant to chat to you. We'll catch up again next Friday, same time. Who's lined up for next week?
Well, we've covered Kevin Kelly and Seth Godin, and we've just spoken about Mr. Munger. I think the fourth intellectual hero that we need to deal with next week is Don Tapscott.
Fantastic. We'll catch up then, and you have an awesome weekend.